part three of my story, I suppose, supporting my child through the education system, and now we're transferring to secondary school. I think as many parents in this situation, we've had an awful lot of support through primary. We've got by it through the skin of the teeth. We have so many concerns moving forward, but we can't do anything at this point because the need isn't shown. The local authority doesn't see that level of need. And so I had everything crossed. This was going to be a new beginning. She was excited, like every transition to new schools. She wants it to work. She wants it to do well. But very quickly, things started to unravel very, very quickly. Um, what I will say is our school was incredible. She was offered flexi starts to school so she could avoid the crowd. She went to the SEN base instead of a tutor. She was escorted between lessons. She had 5 minutes early so she wasn't in the crowd, taken into the lunch hall to get dinner early, allowed to eat her lunch in the SEN base or even the SENCO's office at times. But even with all that support in place, the impact on her mental health was huge. At home, I was watching my daughter become a shell of who she was. She was shutting down. She was stopping communicating, stopping talking. Even to me, she just couldn't hold those conversations anymore. And actually, recently we've had conversations and she can't remember that time. She can't remember a lot of it. It's gone from her memory. And what also slipped was the mask in school. That started to slip, and for the first time ever, other people could see the autistic traits that I had seen since 18 months old. But she's a brilliant masker. She isn't going to let them show, but they did now. So I got to a point one morning and just looking at her, she wasn't the daughter I once had, and I thought, we're done. So I took her out of school. And that's not saying the next day she bounced back. It took months. And that's what not many people realise is burnout. She'd hit that burnout, and it took a good couple of months before, probably spring, early summer, she started to come out of herself again, which was lovely to see. And at this point by now, we'd put in assessments for the autism, but obviously we know that's a big waiting time. And I'd have lots of conversations with her, but she wanted to try again. And again, it's not that these children don't want to be here. And at the same time, though, I decided actually I was going to do a parental EHCP request because I knew that even if by some miracle I got her back into mainstream full time, she wasn't going to be successful without that additional support. And the school needed that extra kind of funding. So we started off on part-time timetables, and very quickly it became evident that we couldn't get above 2 hours a day without her. Unable to do it and starting to refuse again and pull back, and the impact on her mental health. So again, I pulled her out. I was very fortunate to get her into an alternative provision within year 8. It was brilliant. It was 16 hours a week, so she did 3 days, and it was maths and English, and then just life skills, social skills, building up those kind of relationships that she'd never had the opportunity to learn and develop because she was always overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed. And during that period, she got her diagnoses in educational psychologist and everything. So it built this picture of who she was, and it was all going really well. And then at the end of year 10, I found out the local authority was pulling the funding for that provision, and they were going to move her onto an online one. At the time, I was frustrated, upset, worried, concerned. But also in hindsight, you'll see it was the best thing in one aspect ever. And obviously my biggest concern was actually her social circle. It's pretty much non-existent anyway, and with moving to online, that has been the negative of this year. However hard I've tried to keep getting her out and about it, that has been the negative side of this. But actually, these online provisions, although I was very worried about a struggle to engage, they are amazing. So if you're offered it, have a go. I think with technology, they're so interactive. They had breakout zones and interactive whiteboards, and they're set up for this. They know what they're doing. And actually, she went in September last year being put in for functional skills to this year doing actually GCSEs and predicted 7s and 8s. Okay, she's doing maths, English lit, English language and maths. But look where we are. And if I'd pushed her and kept her in that mainstream environment, I don't know where she would have been with her mental health. I hate to think where she would have been. But also the impact on our family has been massive. I had to give up a full-time job. It changed the whole family dynamics. And that is not always possible for everybody. And it is a really, really difficult journey. And one of my things is, why can we not get support in earlier? As a parent, I had concerns. I work with so many families who have very similar concerns that transition to year seven. But it's almost like we have to make sure that the child will break before actually the local authority steps in and puts that support, which is so frustrating, because actually if the scaffolding beneath her had been in from day one, and those negative and those anxiety driven pathways hadn't been so cemented, maybe she may have managed mainstream. Unlikely, but she could have, may have, I don't know. But what I want to say is, if you've watched all 3 videos, you will see that our journey hasn't been linear. It hasn't been straightforward. But she's come out now, she's thriving, she's done her English and maths, they're the essentials, and she's applying for college. And it's worked, and it's been a successful journey. And I know how hard it is to complete this journey sometimes. There feels sometimes a lot of judgment from people that don't understand the situation. But just keep on going. And as always, we are here to help you. And yeah, thank you for watching.